Automation is here.
Automation is here to stay.
Machine learning.
Robotics.
Artificial intelligence.
Augmentation.
Virtual reality.
Performance analysis machines.
What does it mean?
What does it mean for my business?
What does it mean for my job?
What does it mean for my family?
What does it mean for the planet? Automation is the future.
Automation is our future.
Automation is here to stay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President and CEO, Andrew Anagnost.
Morning, everybody. Morning. Morning. It's hard to talk over that. Or is it a good morning? No, let's face it. While we're all here at AU attending classes, going to parties, are we kidding ourselves? Are we naive? Are we dangling our feet over a chasm of job destruction? I mean, after all, it's all over the news, isn't it? Machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics. What does it really all mean? Are we going to automate ourselves away? Are we going to be doing less and serving machines more? And I probably think some of you are wondering, what about Autodesk? Is Autodesk going to automate me away? Are they going to automate away my job? I mean, after all, it's kind of a fair question. The last 3 years at AU, it's been all we've talked about. We've been talking about the coming robot revolution. We've been talking about numerous kinds of automation, new capabilities that are indisputably going to replace some of the things you do every day. So what does it mean for your job? Are we moving to a world of driverless cars and driverless CAD? Or are we moving to a brighter future? One where all of us can make more, better with less. And really, honestly, how do you know? How do you know who to believe? That's what we're going to try to spend the next hour doing. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world of automation, what some real people are doing to respond to it, and how Autodesk is not only going to help you survive it, but we're committed to helping you thrive in it. Now first, let's start with the fact that this whole discussion about robots taking away our jobs has been around for about 50 years. Robots were going to destroy our jobs a long time ago. But that's really not what happened, is it? And why is that? Instead, what happens is each of the eras of automation, from the Industrial Revolution all the way to the current machine age, create more jobs, not less. So why should we assume the future is going to be any different? Let's look at some facts, for instance. Productivity growth and job churn are actually decreasing. Now, with automation, shouldn't we be seeing productivity going up, job churn going up? Now, these charts are for the US economy. This is averages since the Industrial Revolution, but we're seeing this all over the world. So if automation is driving productivity growth and unemployment, it's doing a really bad job. So to kind of understand this, maybe we should take a look back into the past and look at how this journey has unfolded for other types of professions and in other types of eras. Let's start with the financial industry, the good old corner bank. Now, some of you might be old enough to remember that in 1967, the first automated teller machine was introduced, the ATM. Now this triggered numerous predictions about the demise of the bank teller. Their jobs were going away. But something really interesting happened. Over the 10-year period, when the number of ATMs actually quadrupled, total employment in the financial sector actually went up. And when this was all done, when those ATMs finished exploding, there were actually more bank tellers working than there were before. Now, how can that be? How's that possible? It's pretty simple. As other processes got automated within the banks were able to do more things with the same resources. This meant they could open up more branches and fill them with more jobs. Automation allowed them to do more. Now, it's true that today, the tellers are starting to see their jobs impacted by the rise of mobile. So automation is impacting the job of the teller today, but it took decades for it to happen. That's a long time to respond. Let's look at another example. Desktop publishing. You know, the world of magazines, newspapers, books. Everybody thought that access to online media and desktop publishing tools would destroy the publishing business. And frankly, at some level it did. If you're a journalist, you're still struggling with some of the disruption that's happened in this area. But look what also happened. Automation resulted in more. More graphic designers, more authors, more bloggers, you name it. More job types and content than we ever thought possible. And let's not forget that 20 years ago, the career blogger didn't even exist. Now, of course, with the good comes some junk. Not all the content is great. But some of it is really thought-provoking. Some of it is mind-expanding. The point is that more people, all kinds of people, are creating more kinds of content than ever before. The same's true for the movie industry. We all know that being able to get movies inside your home is kind of causing a lot of problems for the movie theater. It's also redefining the television set and the TV station. But it's also creating a completely new content ecosystem. Companies like Netflix, because they're able to drive automation and create online access to content, are creating whole new micro filmmaking industries. Today, it's actually possible to create niche content for hundreds of thousands of users that's just as profitable as a big blockbuster movie targeted at hundreds of millions of people. So automation didn't ruin the content industry. It actually created a better one. Think about the emoji. Seriously, who would have thought a whole industry would be built around the emoji? I certainly wouldn't have thought this. But believe it or not, this is an industry that actually rose out of the rise of the smartphone. I mean, let's face it. There's movies. There's candy. There's gambling, all built around the emoji. Who could have seen this coming? Frankly, nobody could have seen this coming. Now, it's maybe a ridiculous example, but if there's anything that this tells you, if we couldn't see the emoji coming, we have absolutely no idea what kind of industries are going to be created by new technology. And that's one of the things all of us needs to focus on. But let me use something a little bit more familiar, something that all of us know about. The world before computer-aided design software even existed. Back in those halcyon days, there were about 300,000 people in the US drafting. You fast forward today, there's 10 million people using design software in the US. Automation made it possible for more people to design more things. And it led to new industries, new job types, more people imagining, designing, and making than ever before. So what this might tell you is that our ability to predict the future isn't necessarily all that good. but our ability to worry about it is exceptional. Exceptional. So maybe we should change the conversation a little bit. And instead of worrying about automation taking our jobs, let's start having a conversation about where automation can take us. Which brings me to our world, the world where people design and make things. Things like infrastructure, buildings, new products. What does it mean for all of us? Well, I believe it means we're all going to be doing more, better, with less. And what I mean by that is more projects, more products, employing more people with better quality, better outcomes, and better profits. And we'll do it all with less time, less resources, and most importantly, less negative impact on the world we live in. And the truth is, we really do need to do more, better, with less. Some of you have probably heard the statistic. By 2050, there are going to be 10 billion people living on this planet. 10 billion. That's 2 billion more than are living on the planet today. All of these people are going to need more than we can possibly deliver in any sustainable way. Just look at the infrastructure in mature countries. All of you know this, roads are in trouble, bridges are crumbling, and in some places the basic plumbing of cities can't keep up with demand. There's so much that we need to do. You look at emerging countries, there's not enough infrastructure to support the population that exists today, not to mention another 2 million. And you look at urban areas. All over the world, there's no way they can sustainably support the population growth they're expecting. There's simply not enough money and raw materials to build and rebuild cities. That's especially true in an industry like construction that we all know wastes about 30% of its resources on every single project. It's also responsible for about 40% of what we see inside landfills. By one estimate, we're going to have to build 1,000 buildings a day over the next 33 years to meet the growing demand. Now, all of you know that that's probably impossible. But it's absolutely impossible with our current capacity. What's more, we'd all better hope that as we move to a world with 10 billion, that we have a vibrant and growing middle class. And what's that middle class going to want? They're going to want more. More cars, more refrigerators, more toys, more computers, more of the things that make their life better. And in the future, they'll want more stuff we haven't even thought of. And if you don't believe me on that, just remember the smartphone as we know it didn't exist 10 years ago. Not to mention all the gadgets that go with it. More is inevitable, but more brings with it a lot of challenges. Not the least of which, there isn't enough capacity to make more. Manufacturers, they struggle to profitably build products for an ever more diverse consumer class. Governments can't find money, funding, to build what needs to be built. Cities are struggling to accommodate more people and provide the services they need. There simply isn't enough capacity to do everything and keep pace with demand. And more importantly, the world really can't handle more. There's only so many resources, there's only so much space, and when the climate's changing, landfills are at capacity, and we all need clean air and water to survive, well, more starts to feel pretty unsustainable. So rather than viewing automation as the enemy, as a threat, why don't we view automation as an opportunity to do more? And if companies like Autodesk do our job right, that means all of us are going to be doing more buildings, more infrastructure, more products, and we're going to make them better with less. We're literally moving to a world where we can automate the process of making more, going from design to make at the push of a button. We're not there yet. It's going to take years to get there. But if we reimagine the way things are made today, we can use automation to make things better tomorrow. You know, I'll give you a few ideas. Maybe some of them are wacky. What if somebody, maybe somebody sitting in this room, designed a robotic machine that could automate the process of grinding up old roads and paving new roads with the same recycled material? Now, wouldn't that mean that we could afford to continuously improve roads across entire countries, doing more, better with less? Not happening today, but it could happen, and automation could help us get there. And wouldn't there be more people building machines like this, deploying them on sites all over the place because they were cheaper to deploy, and supervising the projects that all of these machines are working on? Of course there'd be. What about old cars? Today, the average life of a car is well over 10 years, and most of them are inefficient, they're resource intensive to build, and they're simply polluting all the cities we live in. What if we could get all of the old cars off the road? What if every car on the road was the latest and greatest? We could get there if it only cost $5,000 to put a car on the road. And you know what? All the materials we need to do that are already on the road today. What if every old car out there could make 5 new cars, 5 new electric cars? Not possible? No, it's not possible today. But automation could help us get there. What about the Hoover Dam? Some of you have probably toured it at previous AUs. What if we had to rebuild it today? What if we had to build 5 of them? Right now, we can't even keep up with basic infrastructure updates. So the simple answer is, we couldn't do it. It would take an enormous amount of time, money, and resources. If you want a modern example of building the Hoover Dam today, just take a look at the Three Gorges Dam in China. Even though you could argue that labor in China is lower than most countries in the world, this project still cost $27 billion. And it took 18 years to complete. And it displaced millions of people in the process. Beyond that, the environmental cost was gigantic. In fact, the water has become so polluted that the local cities say it's undrinkable. Sure, the dam's generating massive amounts of power, but the trade-offs are too great to ignore. That's what happens when you duplicate old ways of making instead of making in new ways. Today, we couldn't rebuild the Hoover Dam. I'm not even sure we'd want to if we could, because automation could actually help us reimagine hydroelectric power and help us capture energy in completely different ways. And that means we could generate more power, do it better than before, and with less impact. Now at this point, I can get it. Some of you might be thinking, I'm automating myself into some kind of fantasy land. Can new kinds of automation really help us do more with less? Is there anyone in the real world that has applied automation technologies to reimagine the way they think, the way they do things today, right now? Well, there actually is. And I'd like to invite one of our customers on stage to tell their story. Van Wijnen is one of the leading mid-sized design and build firms in the Netherlands. And what they've done is they've begun a journey today to transform their company by applying new technology to familiar problems.